I mean, I'm just gonna buy whatever I buy next time. I'm just gonna buy it outright. I'm not gonna build it because I'm old and my time is valuable, and I don't want to play with expensive Legos like that.
All
I
right.
want to play with regular Legos,
Right.
Because that's what building a computer is. It is literally expensive Legos.
This is true. And I only shocked myself once.
Did you?
No.
See, and this is why I ask you to keep a camera on yourself at all times. There is the likelihood that there's going to be something TikTok worthy. This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is brought to you by GOT Sound Studio. GOT Sound Studio offers a variety of experiences: music, voice and instrumental recording and production, video and still photography. GOT Sound Studio has all of your media needs met. Owned and operated by Dominique Stewart, the Neek the Geek, experienced artists as well as up-and-coming will find everything they need to create. Bring your media needs to one of the most talented producers and engineers in the business, Neek the Geek. You can find details by visiting gotsoundstudio.com or calling 803-243-2302. You can also find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.
The All About Nothing podcast
may have content and language
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the All About Nothing podcast. I am Barrett Gruber. This is episode number 196. It is Monday, March the 4th. I'm joined this week by, of course, let me go through some stuff before I do introductions, because if I just jump straight into it, I'm going to miss the opportunity for the jokes that I wrote, and I know Zach looks forward to these immensely. So first, thank you for supporting the show. Without listeners, then we're just the same 99% of all the other podcasts that are out there that everyone listens to out of obligation rather than because they're enjoying the content. So with an audience that's mostly just family members and friends that feel that obligation, for those of you that aren't, thank you for listening. If you're listening, please subscribe to the show so that we get more listeners. So people tend to stick around. And if you'd like to join many of the others that are in support of the show, you can go a little further with memberships that are available through our website. I'll give you details on that at the end of the show, so stick around for that. Secondly, I want to thank Dr. George Ackerman, advocate for finding and spreading awareness about Parkinson's disease in the name of his mother, Sharon, whom passed away just a few years ago. So George has a website that he interviews and does podcasts to assist in spreading awareness, as well as social media content out there. It's all about the battle of Parkinson's disease, and it's one of those things that I fundamentally believe that there has to be a cure that's on the horizon. So I'm humbly asking, please go visit togetherforsharon.com for links to social media, podcast episodes, and more information about foundations and groups that support those that are affected with Parkinson's disease. So here we go. For this week's episode, I want to welcome one of the most well-versed individuals in South Carolina politics, because he is subjected to it on almost a daily basis, my good friend Leroy Green. Welcome, Leroy.
Welcome, fellas. Appreciate for you having me.
Absolutely. As well, the spoke to my wheel, the hammer to my nail, and the sock to my shoe, Zach King.
The sock to your shoe?
I don't know.
Okay.
Ultimately, if you listen to What the Pod Was That, I come up with odd introductions that don't really mean anything, but sound funny when I'm writing them. So, going to jump. Well, actually, how have you guys been? I'll let Leroy go first.
I'm good. Like I said, we talked about before the pod, parenting, just trying to, keep them alive, and you got to keep your hands away from their mouth. So they're 3 and 1. Right now we're going into the not bite daddy stage. In life.
Yeah.
Hopefully they grow out of that. But other than that, things are good. The wife is still tolerates me.
Yeah.
But
that's good.
Things are good.
That's good. Zach, how about your end?
Just working. Still new where I am now.
Yeah.
Being a dad. Also been bit a couple times, Leroy. You're not alone there. Apparently that's what they do. The pillow massacre that just happened before this recording. I mean, everything really politics is really starting to ramp back up. So I'm tiptoeing into it a little bit, trying not to wear myself out before November gets here. But
that's fair.
The insanity of life is happening.
Yeah, I'll just preface this by saying that so this is more in line with what the show normally is, where we have several people on to discuss. Normally Zach and of course Trent, but basically I wanted to discuss with you guys because South Carolina has now already been the first in the South with the Democratic primary, which I'm just going to say was completely useless. Was a complete and utter waste of money because the parties have to pay for these primaries. If they want to have a presidential preferred primary, then they basically burn their own money to do these primaries. And it's utterly ridiculous, the amount of money that it costs, and completely pointless when Joe Biden walks away with 96% of the Democratic vote. I don't know what the intention was for. I worked the primary at a location over in Lexington at a Lutheran church over there. And for the entire 12 hours that the poll was open, we saw 55 people. 55. And there were other locations that saw far fewer. There was one Lexington precinct that apparently only saw 12. So 1 an hour. And we had 6 people working our polls for 55 people that came out throughout the day. The Republican primary was considerably more busy. I think over the entire state of South Carolina, I think they almost saw 1 million voters show up. Like it was in the 700,000s or something like that. But Donald Trump won by 20 points, except down in SC1 or South Carolina 1, which is Nancy Mace's territory. And if you don't know who Nancy Mace is, just look up the insane woman who carried an Indiana Jones whip through the halls of Congress one day. Like, she went from being a Trump, she wasn't really a Trump fan, to all of the sudden in the last 2 years completely flipped, and now she's huge MAGA. But yeah, so Nancy Mace territory. Let's see. Which, by the way, Mac DeFord, who is running against her, he's going to be on the show here in the next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to having him on the show. Because
now, is that the former campaign man? Is that the chief of staff that's running against her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Mac DeFord.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be. It should be good. So he's currently seeking the Democratic nomination, and I think when filing day comes, he's probably going to have a primary. He's probably going to have to run against a Democrat. So.
Michael B. Moore.
Yes, that's it. Michael B. Moore.
So hold on. So you're sorry. So the guy that you're going to be talking to is running the Democratic primary. Yeah, he's going to be running against Michael B. Moore. But the other person in the Republican side is her chief of staff and Catherine Templeton.
Yes. Okay. Now, yes, you are correct. I do remember that. So yeah. So it should be both parties are going to wind up having to burn money on primaries, which I guess I'm in favor of as long as both of them are doing it.
I like the primary system if in the sense of I like the idea of that the incumbent will be challenged by somebody who will push them one way or the other.
Yeah.
In other words, defend your record. I like to see debates. I don't like to see debates with crowds, but I want to see a debate. I want to see you defend your record, and I want to see maybe somebody from your party, whether you're left or right, push you on policies that you support.
Yeah.
Biden got a pass by not having any primary challengers. So, which has good and bad things. Trump had a whole host of primary challengers, which was a waste of time because the party has decided we're ride or die Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is a fact. I real quick, I wanted to read. So I got a text message after the South Carolina primary, after Marianne Williamson dropped out. So Bill Kimler, who of course friend of the show, also host of Black, White, and Blue in the South podcast with Dr. Jamil Brooks. He sent me a text message on February 9th, which I thought was pretty funny. He said, looks like the Gruber interview wasn't enough to propel her campaign. This is immediately after the time Politico reported that Marianne Williams had dropped out. He said, in fact, Politico cites that interview as the turning point for her downward spiral. He said, quote, Williamson had been enjoying a successful climb in the polls, mounting a serious challenge to the incumbent president. But after her fateful appearance on the All About Nothing podcast, her numbers dropped precipitously, and her campaign never recovered. He says it's right there in the article. He sent me a link to the article. Now, I did not follow the link because I've learned not to follow a lot of the links that Bill sends me, because you never know. You just never know.
Did he send you that guy sitting on the bed?
No, did he send that to you?
No.
But yeah, the Republican primary had a huge turnout, much busier day. The location that I was at, which was the same location that I did the Democratic primary, we had nearly 1,200 voters come through. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up was there was a campaign worker that had gotten permission from the county of Lexington for Senator Garrett out of Greenwood, Billy Garrett. And basically he was there really, it wasn't that he was there. Being there was an issue for us. He was friendly enough. He was thanking voters that as they exited out, as well as handing out leaflets, but he was only allowed to hand those out and talk to the voters as they were exiting the polling location. We did get some weird complaints. Somebody said that they were handed a leaflet before they walked in, and so I had to walk out there and tell them, you make sure that these only go to individuals as they're leaving. And he said, yeah, the person just took it from, like, the person reached over and took it from him as they were going in. So that's on them. But if you don't know who Billy Garrett is, I want to play you guys some audio that really encapsulates who Senator Billy Garrett is from the upstate. So I'm just going to play this for us because it's entertaining.
Some teaching is going on in the school system that's training people.
Yes, I
would defy you to cite me to an example in South Carolina where a child has said that
it's hard to hear.
Didn't want to do this.
We don't hear it.
Oh, you don't hear it at all?
No.
Well, okay. So basically, what I'm going to... I think the volume on it's coming in pretty low. Essentially, so Billy Garrett is this haunchy fat Republican out of the that was meant to be
haunchy fat Republican.
Yeah. I mean, I know that describes a lot of them, but he's this silver-haired white Republican out of Greenwood County. But essentially, he is in South Carolina. He is. I want to say he's like one of the heads of a committee or something. But in a recent committee session, he said that there was an incident at a public school in Greenwood County that a student wanted to be a cat. So the school played along, including getting a litter box and basically attending to this child as though they were a cat. And the Bob Hutto, I think its name is Bob Hutto. Let me pull up my notes again real quick. So it's Hutto, Brad Hutto, out of District 40, which is Orangeburg and Allendale. He basically said, you have an example of this happening, that there was a student who teachers and administrators encouraged to be a cat, like talked this child into doing this. And Garrett said, well, I don't have proof, but I know I've heard of this one incident where a child was asked, they treated the child like a cat. And so I did some checking. Not remotely true. Completely false. Never happened.
It's a hoax. It's the litter box hoax.
Yes. Yeah. And the fact that we have a senator who will willingly sit on the stand, having no evidence to support this ever happening,
right,
and would sit in front of a committee publicly, and would admit that this is something that is real. Is where are we at?
And is that just straight up lying to lie? Just saying no one was going to go fact check you, any of that?
No, it's a meme. It's something that has been going around in political circles that has caught on, and it's a hoax. It's a joke. And you ever see something that's like on a satire site like the Babylon Lee or something like that, and it sounds close to true of like something that you might think. and then it's twisted a little bit. He's not the first.
Right.
He's just the latest to fall for this, to actually say it. The state has a great article called SC Lawmakers Latest to Claim Student Asked for Litter Box and May Identify as a Cat. And it's been debunked. Every time it comes up, it's debunked.
Yeah.
But it's sad that in 2024, people are still falling for this when all it takes is a simple Google search.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and I went further than that. I actually called the school district in Greenwood to try and track down which school this occurred in. If there was the potential of at least talking to an administrator of the school and having them on the podcast, because, I'm lightly, very loosely, I'm going to give Senator Billy Garrett the benefit of the doubt and try and at least track down where the story could have potentially come from. And in this case, it didn't. There was no validity to it whatsoever. It never occurred in South Carolina. Now, there were incidents in other parts of the country where apparently there was it had to do with something on like it was an animal day or something like that, where the students in the classroom got to pretend or dress up to be those animals for one day. And that was where it basically snowballed into there is a school that is supporting the idea that children want to be different animals. It was one single day. That
so he's
was
building
it.
hypotheticals.
Right. And then
then
turning them into this falsehood.
Right.
I count on Leroy to have the balanced, sort of unbiased opinion in a lot of things, because sometimes Leroy sends me text messages where I look at it and I go, he's on the verge. He's on the verge of he's about to jump ship. He may vote Republican, which is fine if you do. I'm not,
I try to be balanced in the sense of I understand both sides. The difference is there are some people on the left who are absolutely insane.
Yes.
And there are people on the right who are absolutely insane. The difference is, I think, and we see this a lot, the leftists, the true leftists, seem to hate each other as much as they hate the right. In other words, they fight each other so much that it's almost comical that they get anything done. Whereas the right embraces their crazy and brings them into the fold. And the sad part about that is that when you have some of these people who don't do their research, or they don't look things up, they just take things at face value, it gets passed around. Now, some of it is innocent. Some of it is your uncle heard something and he repeats that, or your dad hears something. We all do it to a certain extent. Oh, I remember reading something. But there is this element, this misinformation campaign that some are engaging in to get these things out there, because by the time you've debunked it, it's already too late.
Yeah.
You look at things like Pizzagate, you look on the birther conspiracy, you look at all of these things, QAnon, it's already gotten away from the original, whatever it was in the beginning, and it's already traveled the world. And by then it's too late. You're on your heels fighting it. And so I think it's almost in a sense of you have to understand what one side is doing. I was raised, I would say a lot of my friends and raised, on the Democratic Party side, and so I do try to be balanced and understanding, hey, how did we end up this way?
Yeah.
And I think with our Republican primary, you can see how we ended up this way. You may not like it, but if you study it, you see how we ended up this way. But it is fascinating the fact that the former governor, a popular governor of South Carolina, could not win her home state.
Yeah.
Part of that is her shooting herself in the foot. And part of that is the people, think about this for a second. Henry McMaster is governor because of Nikki Haley. Tim Scott is a senator because of Nikki Haley.
Yep.
Nancy Mace was endorsed by Nikki Haley. And every single one of those people turned and endorsed Donald Trump.
Why do
they were all
why do we think that is? Like, what is it? What is it? Is it just that they are so certain that Donald Trump is going to win the nomination and then potentially the White House again, that they're hanging them? Are they all vying for vice president? Is that what it is?
So you guys watch football? We
Yeah.
all remember when the Rams went all in to win a Super Bowl?
Yes.
Yeah.
They knew afterwards. Same thing with Tampa. When Tampa got Tom Brady, and they were like, the hell with it, we're going to mortgage the team to win now.
Right.
We'll worry about the future later. That's what the Republican Party did. They had an opportunity on January the 6th to say, we do not want this form of governing. They decided, for whatever reason, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
When the impeachment came up, when Donald Trump was at his lowest, they had an opportunity to say, we're going to move past this. And they've decided we're not. They decided we're going to go down with the ship. We're going to mortgage the future to win a championship. Because think about it. If they win the White House and they win back the House, there's a possibility they could win the Senate. But if they win the White House, Trumpism won.
Yeah.
And every person who comes down the line will mirror that. If they lose, it is one of the biggest gambles, if you think about it, in political history, because the party is banking on one person and one style. Because if you think about it, since Trump was elected, they have lost every election since then. The red wave that was promised us in 2022 didn't happen.
Yeah.
He lost in 2020. So when you look at these things, they're mortgaging their future for this man. And honestly, if you think about it, he's a free agent. He's a mercenary. He is literally Matthew Stafford, who won with another team. He's Tom Brady, who won in the business world. And they're like, we're going to bring this guy in because he's going to bring us the championship, because he did it before and he's going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Well, can he deliver this year?
Go ahead, Zach.
I was just, but the thing is too, they also adopted his playbook. They adopt the rhetoric, and they want to keep that going. You see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Senate Matt Gaetz. They just take that, be wrong, but double down on it kind of thing.
So, you're absolutely right. So one of the interesting things that a statistic that's come out of this basically is that of the voters that voted in Michigan last night, which, we're recording on a Wednesday, but of the voters that voted in Michigan yesterday, 25% of them, whether they voted for Haley or whether they voted for Trump, 25% of them said that if Trump is indicted, they would not vote for him in October or in November. They will not vote for him. That he is, if he get, I'm sorry, not indicted. If he gets convicted, they absolutely will not vote for him. I find that interesting. In South Carolina, he only won by 20 points. Now he won by 40 points in Michigan last night. But there is for basically a former president that's kind of running as the Republicans' incumbent. He is not garnering that much support from the Republicans. They're perfectly willing to say if he gets convicted of any one of these, which he's been convicted of 2 now. But
at the same end of that coin, you have people in like Colorado who, like Nikki ran unopposed. I think it was Colorado, and she lost to the no one here, no one present, not this candidate.
No, that was Arizona
or Nevada. Nevada. It was in Nevada. Yeah. So in Nevada, it was none of the above that won by 30 or 40%, or for 30 or 40 points but Donald Trump wasn't on that ballot. He didn't file in the primary because he was in the caucus, because Nevada is in one of those transitional periods where they still have a caucus, but they also now have a primary, because they used to just be a caucus state. I don't know. It's weird.
What?
And here's the thing with when we circle back to South Carolina. One of the things that I think a lot of people, they're looking at Trump and they're realizing, and it goes back to your point, Barrett, he is the front runner. Eventually he'll be the presumptive nominee. The problem that the Republican Party is facing right now is they have a winner with who they feel is Donald Trump, even though all the evidence that Nikki Haley's pointed out says, no, he hasn't. He doesn't help them on down ballot races. He doesn't help them win the Senate. He didn't help them in the House. But they look back at that time in the White House and they say, he beat Hillary Clinton. And if we, in this form of Trumpism, this MAGA thing, this wave that they're riding, if you look at it, he's not winning these huge margins. Yes, he's beating his primary. He's beating Ron DeSantis. Yes, he's beating Vivek Ramaswamy. He's beating Tim Scott, Mike Pence, Chris
Christie. Yeah.
You look at all of the people he's beating. I'm not saying that they're not serious politicians, but they're not people who he's not really fighting people like he fought in 2016.
Oh yeah, he didn't.
On that stage, he laid waste
to
the Republican establishment. He's not doing that right now. And he's winning by smaller margin. And one of the things in South Carolina, Nikki Haley got 40%. She got 40%, which is not good for a red state that has a huge military contingent. You are not doing well. If you have not, if he was going to win, he should have won by a landslide, and he did not. He won in the rules. And when you look at that number, that's not a good signal for the Republican Party.
No, not at all. No, it really should have been if Donald Trump is really the nominee that the Republican Party wants, then there should have been a large upswell of support for him. And the fact that Nikki Haley wound up pulling in 40% of the vote, or 41 or whatever, here, you know, she pulled in 25% of the vote in New Hampshire. She pulled in, you know, these are all indications that I think that while the Republican establishment and the individuals that make up the politicians in the Republican Party, while they certainly seem comfortable with this idea that they're going to hang their hats on Donald Trump and walk with him into, I don't know where he's going, but walk with him in that direction. The Republican voters themselves are not. I don't see it.
Not only are they not doing it, the donor class that backs Republicans or politicians are not as well. Now, you did see after the Michigan primary, you saw the Koch brothers super PAC that the super PAC backed by the Koch brothers did pull their support for Nikki Haley.
Yep.
She did raise about $1 million after the South Carolina primary, I believe. You do see the donor class not going all in on Donald Trump in the beginning. Part of that is they wanted someone else.
Yeah.
Now, when Super Tuesday comes around, he becomes the presumptive nominee. The question is, you have two major questions. Does Nikki Haley bend the knee? And does the donor class and the rest of the party who was fighting against him get back in line?
Yeah.
And that's a big question because you have a huge swath of independents and never Trumpers. In other words, Trump is not gaining any new followers or voters. He's trying to consolidate the Republican Party. So he has to win by the Democrats basically stepping on a rake, which, let's be honest, Democrats have a very long history of fumbling the bag, of being Charlie Brown and letting Lucy pull the football out. You would think this president would have a literal race to the White House with all the accomplishments that he has done. However, if you look at every poll, people have said, we trust Donald Trump on the economy. We trust Donald Trump on the border. And you're like, how is the Democrats' messaging so bad?
Yeah.
Like, how are you fumbling the bag so much? And if Donald Trump wins, it will not be because Donald Trump is. It will be because the Democrats have literally given away the game.
Yeah.
Democrats would be the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Look, hey, I don't want to call any names here, but Sarkis, is it who's the 49ers? Sarkisian?
No, it's Sarkisian is the coach of Texas.
That's right.
Yeah, I was about to say that name.
Shanahan.
I just want to point out. I just want to point out. Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons in Atlanta in 2017 when we went to the Super Bowl, he was also the head coach of the 49ers who blew their lead in the recent Super Bowl.
Twice. Remember, he blew a lead with 49ers
That's
when
right.
they were up against the Chiefs the first time and this past time.
Yeah. So it's not the Falcons. It's clearly the Shanahan fool. I take that back. I like Shanahan.
I did want to bring up, did y'all see the opening for SNL this last weekend?
Remind me. Oh, it was this. It was Rubio. Yeah, it was Rubio.
It was Rubio. It was Tim Scott,
Rubio, Lindsey Graham,
and then Senator Reich or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Rich. Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, that was entertaining because they
were basically all just like, yeah, he's such a great guy. Remember when he did that to you? Yeah, he did that, and they all like morosely look around. They're like, but he's such a great guy. It's exactly, you're waiting for those guys to hop off and be like, are you going to take a stand just because he lashed you one good time? Like, still need to stand up. I know he gave your phone number out, Lindsay, but I still need you to stand up.
Yeah.
Like that was very funny and very apropos.
What's real quick, what's our opinion on the grift over to selling sneakers?
Oh, it's genius.
Is it?
Because think about it. I mean, if you think about it in the sense of he has never met a product he would not sell.
That's true.
And if you think about the whole idea of what he's doing, and love him or hate him, the man somehow has able to cultivate a following who will support him no matter what. In spite of all of the evidence, they have been willing to donate to his campaign. They have been willing to vote for him. They have been willing to stand by his side no matter what. And some people who are definitely smarter than I am will tell you that it is cult-like behavior. They will tell you that this is not natural. I don't know. I'm not a learned man in that sense. I don't have those degrees. But you have to think about the fact of the day he got a $454 million judgment, he goes to SneakerCon and drops a shoe to where that's the news cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Admittedly, though, what I find the funniest about the shoe is the fact that if you go and you read the fine print on the sales, there is no guarantee that these will be shipped anytime soon. There is no actual guarantee that they ever will ship.
We're not making them in China. All right? Okay.
But that these shoes apparently, like I said, there's no guarantee that they will ship anytime soon. There is no guarantee that they will actually ever ship, but that all sales are final and there is no refund available. It's like he's literally putting it out there. Hey, just so you know, the likelihood of me scamming you is all written right here. So just send me your $399 and let's hope for the best.
I want the whatever you call it, just the group, the assembly of clowns to adopt that shoe as the new clown shoe. I mean, do you think that he's ever going to wear them? Has he worn them?
No.
I mean,
we're talking about a man that has never worn a sneaker a day in his life. I refuse to believe he's worn one. Tennis court.
This is what I'll say. They're not for me. I'm not a sneakerhead like that. I'm not going to be buying the Insurrection 6s. But for those people who want those shoes, more power to you. But I find it hilarious that on one side the Republicans are screaming about the economy, talking about how bad the economy is, inflation is up, and the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party is dropping $400 shoes.
Yeah.
Like, who is that for?
Yeah.
And that's why I said the Democrats' messaging is so bad, because the jokes write themselves and the Democrats are literally arguing with themselves over stupid stuff. And it's like, he dropped a $400 shoe, people. What? He's like, it's almost like I want to see, like, I feel like Trump is honestly like, I wonder how bad I can get before the, and like, you remember when he said I can shoot a person on Fifth Ave?
Oh yeah.
It's almost like he's daring them.
Yeah.
And that's where I look at the Democrats and I'm like, how are you losing? Like, how is your message that bad? That this meant, like,
And
How?
that's something Leroy we've been talking about for months. I mean, like you and I have expressed this back and forth for months. And you're exactly right. The Democrats, there is so much opportunity to go look at this fool. Look at all of the evidence. Just do a quick. In fact, I'll do it for you. Here is an individual who has committed adultery at least 3 times that we know, because he left one wife for the next wife. He left that wife for the next wife, and then we have it documented and paid for that he slept with a porn star while his wife was recovering from giving birth. So those are the only 3 that we know of that are documented, because that's how it all played out. Here is an individual who literally ran an ad in the New York Post claiming that that they should bring back the death penalty specifically for the Central Park Five. And then it turns out that none of them were even remotely involved in anything. Like DNA evidence came out, and it was like they were completely exonerated. And so you can't here. Okay, so the next one, we have evidence, a recorded phone call to the Secretary of State of Georgia, where Donald Trump literally says, "I need you to find me 11,780 votes. That's one more than we need, and we win." Like, a recording of him saying it, basically trying to convince the Secretary of the State of Georgia to just smudge the numbers, just push it in my direction, and we win. He wouldn't have won the presidency. I mean, Biden had already crossed the threshold without Georgia, so it didn't make a whole lot of difference. But it was, the idea was, if we can do it in Georgia, then we can set up the dominoes to start to fall in other states. If Georgia folds, other states will fold. So you have evidence like this, and yet you still look at this man and you go, yes, I know that he completely turned a fantastic, well, not fantastic, an Atlantic City casino into a cesspool and bankrupted a casino. It's the cliche, the house always wins, isn't fictional. The house always wins. How you destroy a casino. And somebody tried to give me the excuse, I think it was on TikTok, but because I made a comment, but someone gave me the excuse, it was because he didn't hire the best people to run his casino. And it's like, it's a casino.
It prints money.
Literally. I mean, they come in little plastic chips. It doesn't make sense.
The problem is, I guess the reason why I always use the sports analogy when it comes to politics is because politics has become my team versus your team.
Right.
It doesn't matter who your team is, because I'm going to side with my team in the face of everything. If you remember, and here's the thing that you have to understand, there is a war going on within the Republican Party. We're just watching it play out live. Within the last week, as of this taping, Mitch McConnell is stepping down as a leadership position in the GOP. So after the election, there's going to be a new leader. He is the longest running Senate leader in our country's history. Mitch McConnell at one time was the kingmaker. He was the power behind the scenes.
Yep.
I don't think Mitch McConnell can go to CPAC without a Secret Service escort.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to think about the fact of the establishment Republicans. If you're looking at what's going on, and not just Republicans, you're seeing on both sides, I think there are 23 to 24 Democrats retiring in the House and maybe more Republicans. But this is
it's a huge turnover.
It's a huge turnover. So what you're seeing, especially on the Republican side, is they're mortgaging their future to win this championship.
Well,
because what they look at is, from here on, if we win this, every candidate would model themselves after Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And if you remember, and Bear, you're old enough to remember, the patron saint of the Republican Party was Ronald Reagan.
Right.
Ronald Reagan would be a Democrat.
Yep.
But if Ronald Reagan said the things he said when he was president, if Ronald Reagan said the things that he said about immigration, about interventionism, not being an isolationist, Gorbachev tear down that wall, Ronald Reagan would be a Democrat based on the things that this Republican Party is voting on and wants.
Ronald Reagan's
And-
support of Social Security and Medicare, like these social programs, Ronald Reagan, in his presidency, at least in the first term, fought to make sure that those were there. And in a minute I want to bring up the cognitive stuff, but Zach, you were going to say something.
I don't want to make you guys feel old. That's just the president that when I was born, he was president. So, but did people back then make a fun of his, cognitive disabilities?
No one knew.
No one knew.
No one knew.
We did.
Even when he spoke, you kind of. He had half a shaved head at one point, right?
I don't remember that, but
he had like surgery or something, didn't he? And he actually had part of his head shaved.
Well, he suffered from dementia, from the end of his first term into all of his second term. He was pretty dementiated. But
we never knew.
Never had any idea.
Okay.
We didn't find out that he couldn't tell the difference between his wife and a lamp until well after he had passed. Like a lot of that stuff we didn't know anything about.
Well, and that's the whole thing. A lot of them think Nancy kind of had a big, strong hand in helping them make decisions and things like that.
It's not the first time.
It's
not the first time.
The president has that. You make fun of them. That's all it is make fun. The man can't walk upstairs. The man can't hold. And these are problems. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not. But just the way it's treated is kind of ridiculous to me.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll break this up a little bit with. So the news came out yesterday that apparently airline companies have now admitted that airplane mode is not actually necessary, and they've known about this for 20 years. Have you heard about this? That there was never any necessity to turn on airplane mode. It has nothing to do with any sort of like radio frequencies or anything that could potentially harm the airplane or the flight or anything like that. Nothing at all. So they have come out and admit. How does this make you guys feel?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't trust corporations, so I'm not shocked. Like, I mean, think about it. I had a friend of mine who worked in insurance, and he literally told me about, we talk about the whole insurance adjustment about like when they actually have numbers by how much your life is worth if you die. And he was a claims adjuster, and he told me, and once I learned that, there's nothing I can't think that a company would or would not do. Think about it. A recall for an automobile only happens if they weigh the amount of money they would have to pay out if enough of us died in an accident.
Right.
Like, once you know that, you're like,
And there's still a couple Ford Pintos running around on the roads.
Yeah.
Well, and there's an acceptable number of fatalities before they do anything.
Corporations are people. That is, speaking of another corporation, Kentucky Fried Chicken is rolling out its latest menu item, which is the Chizza, or the Chizza.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's supposed to, so basically what it is, it's two
chicken pizza?
Yeah, it's chicken pizza. 2 white meat, extra fried pieces of chicken fillets covered with marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and pepperoni.
I'll try it.
Okay. That is an affirmative from Zach. Yeah. I'm going to have to sit down on that one.
Really?
I don't know what it is. I've had a chicken crust pizza where, the chicken is cooked and then you mash it up and then you basically smear it out so that it's a gluten-free pizza crust. Mm-hmm. I've done that before. It's not bad. There's something lost in the texture, I think, but what I saw was literally 2 flat pieces of fried chicken with marinara sauce and mozzarella cheese and pepperoni on top. I'm not saying I won't try it. I'm saying that I'm apprehensive about trying it because there is potential that this might be good.
I bet it's good.
Well, what was the other monstrosity they came out with? It was the
2 pieces of chicken with basically a sandwich. The buns were the chicken strips.
Yeah.
Plus, the famous bowl's a monstrosity, but damn.
I make that at home.
When you brought up fast food, I thought you were going to bring up because Wendy's is going to test surge pricing. That's where I thought you were going. You're doing fast food.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too.
Yeah, I was like, that's, again, the audacity. I got,
How dare they?
how dare you? But then I'm like, you know what? Bravo companies to say, we're dealing with high inflation. People can't afford homes. But you know what? If you want a 4 for $4, be prepared to pay $6 at noon.
That is going to do it for episode number 196 of the All About Nothing podcast. This is going to be part 1 of this episode. Part 2, of course, comes out next week, so make sure to tune in for that. Thank you very much, Zach King, for being here. Also, thank you to our guest, Leroy Green. Links to past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media are all available on our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly, and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show monthly? Members can get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content, or you can make a one-time donation through the same link. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533. You can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com or join our Discord server. Links are available at theallaboutnothing.com. Thank you all very much for listening. Tune in next week for part 2 of this episode. You all stay safe and have a great week. The All About Nothing podcast is produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett Gruber or visit my linktree /Barrett Gruber. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available, including memberships that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. To find links to our social media, merchandise, and past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you can call and leave us a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our partner podcast. Zach and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons. Visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Me takes a deep dive down the rabbit hole in episodes of Welcome to Wonderland. Available on all the podcast platforms. Visit WTWLpod.com for details. As well, you can listen to the political and social conversation between Dr. Jamela Brooks and Bill Kimmler on Black, White, and Blue in the South. Available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please like and hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening. The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved. This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is brought to you by Blank Canvas Brand. If you own a business, restaurant, or sports team and you're ready to shake things up with that new, unique image, you need to use Blank Canvas Brand. Blank Canvas specializes in brand identity, including logos and graphics for business cards, flyers, banners, and signs. Blank Canvas offers printing services to help with your clothing needs. Look, when it comes to talent and service, there is no one better. For more information, you can search Facebook for Blank Canvas, or you can email blankcanvas@theallaboutnothing.com. That's BLNKCANVS @theallaboutnothing.com. You can find links in the Friends of the Pod section of our website. Visit theallaboutnothing.com.